everyone, Lynz Piper-Loomis here. Thank you so much for joining me back here on I Am Silent No More. Super excited to share with you a special guest today, Brooklyn Robinson. Welcome, Brooklyn.
Hi, thank you.
Hey. Yeah, absolutely. So, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Doing great. Glad to hear. I know we kind of chatted a little bit before this, and I think this is the first time you have ever actually shared about this publicly. And I know we just recently saw each other at Mar-a-Lago for our event down there. And so I thought, your story needs to be told. So first, I just want to start off with who is Brooklyn and what do you do?
Okay. So I'm from Alabama. I currently live in Florida. I work as a journalist for Uncover DC currently. I was employed by the Walt Disney Company for about 9 months. I'm currently in a lawsuit with them because they discriminated against me religiously. They fired me due to my religion. During my time there, I saw a lot and heard a lot of things about the company, which is, why I started talking to you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't know if you want to expand on the religious part. You probably can't too much because you're in a lawsuit. So I don't want to step on too many toes there. But
Yeah.
let's talk about some of the things that you've actually seen at Disney, and maybe let's start with like all of it sounded horrific personally,
Yes.
but let's start with like the least horrific in your mind.
Um, there's a lot of good people that work there. I would say that was the least horrific thing was meeting kind, genuine people. Some people that worked there were not good, not kind, but it made a difference to meet people that were kind. And I feel like when I speak out about Disney, I'm helping those people because a lot of the people that work there needed their job. They couldn't go find a better job, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell me about some of the things that you started to see that raised massive red flags.
Yeah, so before I started working there, I knew Disney was like a hub for human trafficking. They were involved with like MK Ultra. Um, During like my first few weeks there, I started to notice some weird things. I worked at an ice cream stand. I was a waitress there, and people would come up and use like pedophile code words to me, like pizza or hot dog, and that wasn't on the menu. And anybody who would come up and use those code words, they would have a child with them. And I started to notice that was kind of weird. It's happening a little too often. And then I realized the restaurant I was working at was right beside Club 33, if you know what that is.
Yeah.
It's a club for the elite. Basically, you have to pay $33,000 a year to be part of this club. They use it as they call it a restaurant. That's the front for it. But I would see constantly kids go in there and not come out, or vice versa.
And when people order, say, a hot dog or pizza at an ice cream stand, if you
Mhm.
took the order, what did you do, or did it go to someone else?
Yeah, I couldn't take the order. I would just like point them in the direction of the nearest restaurant that had like fast food. And a lot of the times people would act like they were annoyed with me, like I wasn't giving them what they wanted. And that really concerned me.
Yeah. And at the time that you were working at the ice cream stand, did you
Mhm.
know that hot dogs and the words hot dogs and pizza were actual terminology in that capacity?
Yes, I did. I had researched it prior, and then I kind of forgot about it. And then when it started happening more often, I was like, wait a minute. And then I realized what was happening.
And so in your experience, how many people do you think you turned away during the time that you worked there? Because you're like, we don't have that here.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I want to say maybe 40 people, maybe 30. I mean, it was quite a bit. It happened so often.
And did you notice a pattern with the children, like what they looked like or what they were wearing, gender?
Yeah, it was usually little girls, little boys, not older than I'd say 11, and their clothes would always they wouldn't be in really clean clothes. They would look unkept. One little boy I saw had bruises around both of his eyes, and I mean, it concerned me. I couldn't do anything about it, you know?
Yeah, and did you ever try to talk to management or somebody at Disney about it?
No, I was too scared. I was afraid they were gonna think I was, crazy or something, because I had heard and like research stories of people seeing crazy things, but they couldn't tell management because management would most likely be involved or covering it up.
Yeah. And so when you saw these people go into Club 33, that was separate from the orders at the ice cream stand, right?
Right.
Okay. And so you had basically where you were located was near there. So you had like perfect view of what was going on there as well.
Yeah, I couldn't get inside. So Disney has a tunnel system and I could see the door that would lead into there, but I couldn't get behind that door. You had to have a special code, and there was like a porthole window, and I tried to look through the window. It was like a two-way mirror kind of thing, and I could only see a bar, but I could hear things that were going on inside there, and it constantly would sound like a party, and I would hear children in there too, which I mean it concerned me because one thing they tell you about 33 is it's like an adults only restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So in your experience, how many kids do you think went to how many strollers, how many kids did you see go there in your time there that didn't come out?
Um, I don't remember like the exact number. I remember, seeing it.
Yeah. And did any of the kids ever, I know I'm asking a lot of questions, did any
That's
of the
okay.
kids ever ask for any help or do they try to, I mean, because a lot of times in those situations, the kids can be drugged or they can be um, already like groomed to where they're compliant. Did
Yeah.
you notice any that had a behavior where they're like, "Help! I need out of this situation."
No, they all seemed like the quiet. I remember on one occasion I had two teenagers alone. They're both wearing 33 sweaters and they came up to me to order ice cream. And I mean, they looked dirty and drugged out. And I asked them, I was like, "Oh, how's your day going? Are you okay?" And they would barely, talk to me. And they took their ice cream and they went back into the club. And
Mm,
I hate, seeing that. It still haunts me to this day.
yeah. And what else did you see and or experience with your time at Disney?
Yeah. I just, seeing the children go in there. On one particular occasion, I was outside of the restaurant where I worked at greeting people, and I saw it was a man and a woman. They were pushing a little girl in a stroller, and what stood out to me was she had a dress on, and they didn't have underwear on her. They're pushing her in the stroller, and her bottom is out exposed, and no one, told them, "Hey, you need to, cover her up." And I mean, we'll give people band-aids or diapers if they need it. And I mean, no one was offering that to the little girl. And I mean, I was in shock. I didn't know what to do. And they left with her like that.
Interesting. Did she seem in distress?
I don't know. She was just laying in the stroller. I don't know if she was drugged or I don't know. She just seemed normal, but something was just off about that because I don't know what kind of parent, would do that to their child.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's one thing if you've got a little, 1-year-old running around the house, you're chasing him to put a diaper on them, and it's another thing, in public and,
Yeah.
keeping them covered. And so, tell me about the tunnel system. How did you get introduced to it? What did you see? What did you not see? What
Mhm.
was what could you access? What could you not access?
So every Disney employee has to use the tunnel system because there's themed areas, and if you're caught with your costume outside of that themed area, you get in trouble. So everyone travels through the tunnel to get around. Um, it's I think it's like 16 acres if I'm remembering right. It's really big. I've walked the whole thing several times. There's corridors and like other rooms and closets I was not allowed into. And when I would ask a coworker or a manager, hey, what's that room for? Why can't I go in there? They would say, don't worry about it. Or that's just where we keep extra soda, which is weird because why would you keep extra soda behind a locked door? I've been to like the closet where we keep soda. I mean, it's not locked. So why do you need it, in another locked room? Um, so to me, that stuff, they had to have been hiding, something else back there. And something else that stood out to me was the tunnel, the hallway that would lead to Club 33. There were lockers and cages. And when I would walk by, there would be children's belongings in these lockers, which no child works at Disney World. So I was concerned why there were children's belongings in these lockers.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
what about the cages? What was inside the cages?
I don't know. They kept a black tarp over it, and it had like a zip tie lock on it.
Hmm, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And then other than that, did you see anything else in the tunnels?
Uh, no, it was usually just that. Um, I always looked. I would walk the tunnel during my lunch break, looking to see if, excuse me, if anyone was down there, like children or that needed help. But I never encountered that.
I mean, that's a good thing, obviously, you know.
Yeah.
That's I'm relieved to hear that, but the rest of these things, it's frightening, you know, to think. And
Mhm.
there's so many people that will sit here and balk at the thought that the word pizza is a code word for, you know, in human trafficking and hot dogs. But even the Department of Justice recognized that that word was a code word. Uh,
Yeah.
and you know, Pizzagate. We know about Liz Crokin exposing Pizzagate. So interesting, interesting.
Mhm.
So you were there for how long now?
I think it was about 9 months. They fired me, I
Okay.
think, on my ninth month.
And that was due to the religious situation because they would not give you an exemption
Correct.
for
They
your
wouldn't give me
faith.
time off for my Sabbath. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be very careful with my words. Interesting is my word of the day, I guess. What are some other things that you would like to share about Disney and your experience there?
Yeah. S- One thing that concerned me was some of the people that work there that Disney was allowing to work there. I don't know if you saw Polk County several times would bust human trafficking rings, and it was several Disney employees. They were always involved, in the bust. So I felt like I was working around pedophiles, but I didn't know, who was a pedophile. Um, One thing that management did that bothered me was in my restaurant area, there was a man who was going around and he was sexually assaulting and harassing girls in my work area, and they wouldn't fire him. And all these girls were quiet about it. They weren't saying anything. They didn't go to the police, and that concerned me. And eventually they just moved him to the restaurant next door, but I mean he could still have gotten away with it. So I'm just wondering, I mean, how many people that are pedophiles are working at Disney and just keep, they're not getting fired, they just keep getting away with it, and Disney's just, not even giving them a slap on the wrist.
That's an interesting point because that was going to be the next path I went down because we know there's a lot of pedophiles that work there, and it seems that their policies have been very welcoming and hospitable to that type of individual, sex perps. And the fact that these, girls, young ladies didn't didn't get, didn't feel that um, they didn't feel like they could, come forward and say something. Um, that's I think every company not only should have policies in place, but should be able to, in this type of situation, like zero tolerance. And not only that, but and of course, if these girls are minors, they have to report it, right, to the proper authorities, or they're supposed to. But if they're not and they're adults, then they have a choice in whether or not something's reported. And this is something that is really bugging me at large with the body of Christ.
Hmm.
Churches think that they are outside of the law enforcement area, so they'll cover up these crimes. And I'm talking about at the body of Christ at large. We're seeing all that exposure.
Yeah.
So, did you ever encounter any other sex perps that worked there?
N- No, not that I can recall. One thing that stood out to me, I was like a month into working. One coworker came into work and he had been outside of like the restaurant and he came in and he was upset and I was like, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" And he said, "I just had to stop a lady." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "A lady with a little girl. The lady was having the little girl pull her pants down." And when I said, "Hey, why are you doing that?" The lady was like, "Well, she just had to go to the bathroom." And the guy I work with said, "Well, the bathroom's right around the corner. She can't be taking her clothes off like that in public." And then he looked at me and he said, "Do you know how many pedophiles work here?" And I mean,
Yeah.
that just, it blew me away when he said that.
Yeah, because I mean, personally, if I'm going to employ somebody,
Hmm.
I'm gonna do very thorough background checks on them. If they have anything on their record, personally, and especially what I do. Let's say I had people working for me, I would not have someone who has a history. They can get
Yeah.
their rehabilitative stuff done somewhere else. So that is crazy. Did you ever read the policy handbook regarding that, or remember what they said?
I think I have a copy. I don't remember them touching on that issue. I just remember them saying, "Oh, we don't discriminate based on sexual orientation, so you can be, gay or whatever." And I just remember working there, they would constantly throw LGBTQ in your face. And I know a lot of people um, consider a pedophile being like a sexual orientation, so I assumed that was one thing that they possibly would have been okay with since they were so pro LGBTQ.
And you bring up a valid point, the minor
Yeah.
attracted person. Well, we're going to take a quick break, y'all, and we'll come right back. And thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you right back after this break.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98, kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Hey guys, welcome back. You can go to mypillow.com or mystore.com and you can put in my code LYNZ, LYNZ, and you'll get a good size discount on anything that you order through there. Thank you so much for your support. Your support here is what helps keep me going and keeps the lights on for this investigative process. Also, I want to make sure to give a shout out to Ifani. If you go to ifani.com /Lynz. This is the service that I use. I found out about it over a year ago. It is truly America's most secure mobile network. So I have my entire family on this and love them to pieces. So go over there, check it out. You've got questions. I will be interviewing one of the co-founders here again soon. So welcome back, Brooklyn. I just want to go back to the DEI policies of Disney because you started talking about some of these things. I'm in South Carolina and I was out for a walk. I go for a walk every day with my Belgian, and I saw a trans flag, but it's more than just a trans flag. It's everything it's LGBTQIA plus, blah blah blah. But
Yeah.
the thing is that it has the minor attracted persons emblem on it as well, like right in the center of the flag. This is sickening. They are trying to normalize this, and in some
Mhm.
cases, they already have. So tell me a little bit more about your experience. Like if you pushed back, did you ever experience where someone wanted you to address them by their pronouns and you didn't, or you tried to call out? Did you ever see people dressed as furries? Anything crazy like that that
I
worked
never,
there?
yeah, I never experienced someone getting mad because I used different pronoun. The the most LGBTQ people I saw were management. I know Disney, they were all about hiring women and gay men as managers. So most of my managers were gay or women. Um, but they never really, they would wear like pride shirts, pride buttons all the time. They never really said, hey, you have to call me she, he, they, whatever. Um,
Okay.
I would just address them as sir. I mean, all the time. Because I mean, I'm from Alabama, so I say yes, ma'am, yes, sir. And I
Yeah.
mean, they never seem to have an issue with that. But still, they would just throw it in your face. They hang up pride flyers. They had like pride banners in their office. For me, like, I'm religious. I was uncomfortable with that around, and at the same time, they're telling me, we're going to fire you for your religion. And so, I mean, it's just terrible.
Yeah, it's interesting because and I'm not talking about people, it personally goes against my personal faith as far as,
Hmm.
gays and lesbians, but um, I don't, I don't get into the weeds with that. Uh, in, in, most cases, other than if I'm, ministering or if I'm praying for people and that if it's at church, things like that, I will stand up for my faith in that regard. But I don't get into the weeds on that one. The ones I go after is the rest of it.
Yeah.
And it is a cult. And I don't believe I think people are in gender dysphoria if they identify anything other than their biological origin. I don't believe God makes mistakes. I don't believe that you're born biologically a male, but then God changed his mind and you're actually a female on the inside. He's not a bipolar God, right? So,
Right.
um, in regards to that, it's a cult, and it is
Hmm.
a type of faith because they they're trying to expand the territory with it and force it onto other people. Now, if I try to share Jesus with someone and I share my testimony and they say I don't want to hear anymore, I respect that. I'm not going to keep pushing that on them because number one,
Yeah.
that's not how Jesus was. And number two, that's just not how it works. But when you're forcing me to or trying to force me to conform to your ideology, so as an employer, that is just horrific. And then the aspect that they didn't let you honor your um, Sabbath day, the one day that you said, this is because of my faith, as a result of being Christian, I need this day off, and they didn't give it to you.
Yeah.
So, but they wanted you to conform to everything else. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, they even straight up told me, oh, if only you were Muslim and celebrated Ramadan, then we could help you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Did you get that in writing?
Yeah, I did.
Good. I
Yeah.
am going to look forward to you winning the lawsuit you're in. I mean, I just pray that that's what happens for you, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, well, gosh, man, there's so many rabbit holes we could go down just in this section. Let's talk a little bit more of what you can talk about. So if there's something you
Mhm.
can't talk about with the lawsuit or this situation, then feel free to say, "Hey, I can't go there." But with your faith, how long had you started? Like, how long were you in when they started giving you trouble about that, taking that day
So,
off?
so I applied for the job in January of 23, and they accepted my application in February, and they told me my start date was going to be in October. And they said, if you have a medical or religious need that needs to be met, fill out the form and we'll help you. So I filled out the religious accommodation form. I'm a Messianic Jew, so my Sabbath is sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. I just need that 24-hour time period off to observe my Sabbath. And so HR calls me and they kind of are grilling me about it. They're like, well, how long have you been religious? What exactly is your religion? They were being kind of nasty a little bit, I felt like. And so they were like, well, I guess we'll try to find placement for you that can give you that certain day off. So like a month went by, I didn't hear anything. I even emailed them and a follow up and no answer. Finally, someone called me and said, sorry, we can't help you. If you miss a certain amount of days, you'll be fired. And I decided, okay, I'm still going to do the job anyway. Maybe if I talk to my managers, they'll understand. So I started the job. As soon as like I got into work, I met my managers. I sat down with them and I said, hey, this is what my religion is. Can you help me? And they said, no. They said, you don't have any rights because you're not a union employee and you're not a full-time employee. You'd have more rights if you were a union or full-time employee. And I, I was blown away by that. And so the more I got to know people in my area and meet people, there were other people, uh, Christian, Jewish, and they wanted theirs to observe their Sabbath too, but they were told the same thing. But instead of, missing work and standing by their values, they still came in because they needed their job. And I mean, Disney was just like running over them, not respecting their religion. And I even met people who needed medical accommodations, and Disney was denying their medical accommodations.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I could imagine that if this story could break out, there could be a good sized class action lawsuit. This
Yeah,
would be,
I would hope so. That's why I'm speaking out, because I saw so many people that just didn't have a voice, and I just wanted to be a voice for those people.
yeah, absolutely. And you're brave to come out and speak and talk about these things. So y'all, if you're watching this right now on X American News, on my Rumble channel, or on my X account, please share this and do it with a quote. Just put like in the quote, Disney discrimination question mark, and just share this because we need this to go viral, not because of me or my platform, nothing like that. This is about getting the story out, for Brooklyn and others like her that didn't have another option, to find other employment. We need Disney to do better. Of course, I'm not a huge fan of Disney, of course, but anyways. Um, Now, Brooklyn, is there anything else that you want to share before we share your social media and some other information?
Yeah, I just want to share, if anyone else is having this problem, whether it be at Disney or wherever, like just speak out and stand up for yourself. And I mean, if you see trafficking behavior going on or children that need help, like try to help them as best you can. That's one thing I regret, is I just didn't know how to help them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then you're on X, obviously. I know you're on X, and I think we have your X thing that's been going across the bottom, your X profile, so
Yes.
people can follow you on there. And hopefully, we'll have you back with good news regarding this lawsuit. How long have you been in the lawsuit now?
Um, It started, I think, in September. I had to do like a EEOC complaint, and I started that back in April of last year. So it's been going on for quite a while.
Yeah, I imagine it will continue to go on for quite some time. Well, Brooklyn, I'm so thankful that you came here and shared your story, and brought some things to the light as a former employee of Disney that you saw. And I just want to say thank you for that. For other employees that are there, or whether it's regarding discrimination against your faith or anything else, your disabilities, or if you see things that are happening at Disney and you want to share your story, even whether it's anonymously and give some tips, or you want to, come on here, I welcome you. You can go to my X profile and send me a DM, or you can go to info@lynzpiperloomis.com and send me an email, and I'll be sure to get back in touch with you. Thank you so much, Brooklyn, for coming on
Thank
today. I really
you.
appreciate you.
Thank
Yes,
you for
ma'am.
having me.
Absolutely. We're going to take another break, and when we come back, I'm going to kind of shift gears a little bit and start talking about something else.
Well, hello everybody! It's Annie Cyrus. Welcome to my art studio where all the magic happens. This is the station for painting, and that is the station for all the resin art I do. If you want to check out my art, all you gotta do is go to lutfstudio.com. Finish this painting, but I'm sure, or at least I hope, I'll see you at lutfstudio.com.
Hey guys, welcome back. Make sure you go to lutfstudio.com, put in my code Lynz, and you can get a discount on any of Annie's fabulous pieces of artwork. So I'm kind of shifting gears now, because I want to just kind of give an overview of what I'm going to be digging into with you guys over the coming weeks. The reason why I'm talking about counterterrorism in this new season, the goal of the Islamic State is to expand their territory, take ground and expand their territory. We shared with you what Amy Meck was talking about, Rare Foundation out in Texas, where there's actually this, what they're going to have is the epicenter of the Islamic State here in America. There is a development going in called Epic City in Dallas, Texas area. And this has mosque. I mean, everything is going to be underneath its own thing. So we have to shut this down. People think that, how did this get into our state? How is this happening? Because we allowed these types of things to come in. The Islamic State in and of itself is anti-American. The Muslim faith, even if you are a Muslim and maybe you're peaceful, but the Quran and the things that it talks about is anti-American. And so this is what you see happening over in United Kingdom. You see what Tommy Robinson is, he's in prison for standing up against the deep state and speaking out on behalf of all these victims who have been raped and in some cases murdered by members of the Islamic State. And so I'm going to start talking about this. I'm talking about South Carolina right now, and I will be talking more about some other areas, but I'm focusing here because people will tell me, oh, we're a supermajority state, we don't have issues with this. But I would actually tell you the complete opposite. And one of the last episodes I shared with you, we talked about the hate crimes bill, and South Carolina is one of 2 states left that does not have a hate crimes bill on the books. And why the reason why the Council on American Islamic Relations, which is actually on the terrorist watch list, and it's Hamas founded and funded, the reason why they are supporting and working with legislators at the most local levels on the hate crimes legislation is because if that gets passed, it throws out a welcome mat for Sharia law. It throws out a welcome mat for the Islamic State to expand and take ground in each state. Because if something happens where someone stands up, like what we just saw happen in North Carolina, where a woman was at Harris Teeter and she is a Jew, and someone was wearing one of the scarves that the Islamic State wears and is actually a threat to the Jewish people. And anyways, and she went to management to talk about it. 2 days later, in North Carolina, she was arrested and thrown in jail for I think they called it cyber stalking. And if we don't take a stand right now to reverse course some of this stuff, we're going to be in a world of hurt. So that hate crimes bill would give people the Islamic State, if passed, the ability to sue on behalf of religious beliefs or the cult that it is. And if this law is in order, then it gives them one up. So then they can win these things and they can continue to expand and enlarge their territory here in America. And we've welcomed them in. And so the first thing I want to talk about today, I'm looking at my phone because I'm looking at my notes. Something that I discovered here in South Carolina. If you go to this first link is the South Carolina Independent School Association. And we're just going to kind of show you this. This is an association that focuses on independent schools. They work with helping people with school choice and working with accreditation on these independent schools, private schools, those types of things. So this is why I'm pulling this up. If you go to Charity Navigator, and this is just something I pulled up, they actually don't have a really good rating. So this will be the second link that I sent in. My producer is amazing. She's following everything that I'm saying. But they have a 69%, according to Charity Navigator. They have a 2-star rating for accountability and finance. And if you scroll down, you'll see the areas that they have issues with. I'm going somewhere with this, so just stick with me, okay? So if we can scroll down a little bit. They have a 2-star rating on accountability and finance. If you look at these areas where it says 8 out of 8 points on majority independent board members, 7 out of 7. On financial statements, review or compilation, they have a 0 out of 15. On this conflict of interest policy is missing. They have 0 on there. Whistleblower policy, they have 0. Document retention and destruction, they have a 0. On tax form posted on nonprofit's website as stated on Form 990 is missing, 0. And so these are just some areas of why they have a 2-star rating out of 4. They have a 69%. So when I pull them up on Open Corporates, it's an organization that's been around since like 1965, and they're in good standing there. They've moved their headquarters around a little bit. Now they're located in Orangeburg. And when I pulled up their nonprofit status on propublica.org, everything, you can pull up their actual 990 form and actually see what they filed on there. It's super easy. So if we can go to that link, I'm kind of ripping through these first few ones so you can kind of see where I'm going. But it tells you how much money they have, revenue, all of this, gives you their tax ID number, all of this. And then it says tax filings by year right here towards the bottom. And if you look over to the right, it says 990 view filing, which we don't need to worry about that today, but you can click on the filing and you can see their tax filing. So I just kind of wanted to show you that. And then I've been doing a search. What type of schools in South Carolina are receiving taxpayer dollars, grant money, donations from individuals that teach curriculum from an Islamic State view. So in my search, I typed up Muslim schools or Islamic schools is the first one in South Carolina. Now, what's interesting about this is this is AI, but it gives you a overview of like a summary of things. So here, and we're going to look at this academy here in just a second, but it says that, and I'm going to probably murder this, as Sabil Academy is a full-time elementary and middle school located in Greenville, South Carolina. That is probably the most conservative part of our state, serving boys and girls from preschool level through the 8th grade. It was founded in 2008 to provide a quality educational experience in an Islamic environment for children growing up in America. We don't need an Islamic environment here in America. And then if we can go back to that screen for just a minute, I want to read one more thing on here. We'll come back to that. It says, Mission Hope Foundation, located in Columbia, South Carolina, is also an Islamic school that provides educational services, but they don't have a lot of information listed on their website. So we're going to actually go to the Sabil Academy. And what's interesting about this is that at the very bottom of this website, it actually has their accreditation through the South Carolina Independent School Association and associated organizations, Greenville Muslims, Islamic Society of Greenville, South Carolina Independent School Association. Now, another thing with the South Carolina Independent School Association, they help people understand there's a conservative entity called Palmetto Promise. And those are funds that are, they're more of a conservative Christian type background. I don't know that they promote Christian values outwardly, but this is where our funds are going. And so this is a private school, right? But there's grant money. There's a lot of different things. Why is a South Carolina Independent School Association giving accreditation to a school that is teaching curriculum from an Islamic point of view? This is a huge problem. And then the next thing we're going to take a look at is the ColumbiaIslamicSchool.com. Now, the interesting thing about this, their mission, they talk about we're a full-time Islamic school with a green initiative. Yep, Green New Deal. Located in downtown Columbia, our mission is to help nurture the youth of tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. What's interesting is if you scroll down to this next little part of the screen, they're actually promoting the application window for school choice. School choice dollars come from our taxpayer dollars. So it says right here, update: by a vote of 31-9 last Tuesday, February 11th, the South Carolina Senate passed school choice legislation that would restore the payment of tuition and fees at private schools like ours. Additionally, the legislation would expand the scholarship amount to 90% of South Carolina statewide per pupil spending. Next year, that would be around $7,700 compared to the original $6,000. The legislation also removes the eligibility requirement that students need to have in public school last year. Great news for us. That means all of our students are now eligible. The legislation now goes to the South Carolina House, where the first hearing has been scheduled for committee next week. While we expect changes in the House, we do not expect the restoration of private school tuition and fees or the prior public enrollment eligibility criteria to be changed from the Senate bill. Families previously granted the funds still won't be able to use the monies for tuition and should still go through the ESTF Family Rescue Fund. This presents a moment of opportunity for our students. Any student in South Carolina, resident families whose incomes fall below 300% of the federal poverty level, and they give you a chart, will now be eligible for the program. And it's set for 10,000 students. The sooner you apply, the better your chances before the cap fills up. This is really horrific, because now they're not just telling you about legislation. So for my friends on the conservative side, I would not support the school choice bill because there's a lot of government regulations. And anytime there's government regulations in our funding, we have a lot of issues. And these types of bills keep getting struck down by the South Carolina Supreme Court because they're not constitutional. I understand there's some changes that have been made. We'll see what happens. But I really don't want government oversight into these funds. But now this entity is actually directing people how to navigate through these private funds that they could receive through school choice. Why is our private taxpayer dollars funding the Islamic State curriculum? Their entire belief system, if you will, and Islam is not a religion, okay? It is a way of life. It is a way that it's a belief system based on things that are really horrible, really horrible. It's a cult. It's a cult. It's absolutely a cult. And Annie was helping me with this because she has a lot of experience in this. We're going to go to the next thing that I talked about, Mission Hope Foundation. I was not able to pull up anything else online other than this small website, which was interesting. So they have registration for their school. It is a sites.google.com/site/Mission Hope Foundation. This is way out there. And then the next search we had on there, if we can pull that search up, Islamic Society of Greenville, and this is partnering with these couple of schools that I just talked about. It says the Islamic Society of Greenville is an independent nonprofit organization that serves as a central place of worship for the Muslim community in Greenville. But it also is aimed to create a community center for worship and the spread of Islam in the United States. That's the key word, the spread of Islam. We don't want that here. It's a cult. They believe that Christians and Jews should be murdered. They're beheading them overseas. They're raping children, English children over in the UK. This is a massive problem. So this is why I am opposed to our legislators working with CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, to get these hate crimes bills and ordinances at the city level passed. So the last few things I'm going to share with you, these are just three quick articles. The first article is CARE from their own website. Again, CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations, is founded and funded by Hamas, and they are on the terrorist watch list. This says, look at the date on this, February 28th, 2025, the Council on American Islamic Relations, the nation's largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy organization to spread Islam across the country, today expressed support for a hate crime ordinance currently poised to be passed by the city of Gaffney, South Carolina. They've also, next article, they also put their support out for Myrtle Beach. And the last article, they put their support out for Somerville. Somerville, the person that just got elected in this last term, Tiffany Johnson, an alleged conservative, actually picked up this hate crimes ordinance and ran with it. So not only are they trying to get it passed at the state level, but they started at the local level. And these are just 3 cities in South Carolina. There is many, many more. So why are our taxpayer dollars funding elected positions that are helping spread Islam across the state and across America, but in our state? Why are they giving our taxpayer dollars to programs that are helping to spread the cult of the Islamic State in America, in South Carolina, taking ground and taking territory? And then that one school is focusing on the Green New Deal, and I'm being kind of feisty with that, but that's a massive problem. So we have to start digging down into this and finding out how much money is going to these from our taxpayer dollars. Why is the supermajority of alleged Republicans in the state of South Carolina voting and passing these things? And why are they defending it on behalf of Israel? Why are they saying, that they support this because of this? No. CARE is specifically going after this because they want to spread Islam in every single state and across America. Look at what's happening in the United Kingdom. Do you want that here? I sure as heck don't. Last thing I'm going to share real quick is that I'm continuing to do behind the scenes work on the case that I reported on from Beaufort. I'm not going to be talking as public about some of the things that I know about, because some of the details I'm getting are not public knowledge, and I'm respecting the rights of the victim and the family. And I don't know what's what, so I'm just continuing to see what's going on there. The last thing is Alan Wilson. There is this situation, and I'm gonna do some more work on it, but there is a case where he was listed as a judge for this Donald Edward Gresh Jr. sexual exploitation of a minor, second degree. And I've got to look up the actual disposition of this case, but it says disposition judge, Attorney General Alan Wilson, and the date was 2022. I think he got let off the hook. I think he got like a $10 fine. Don't quote me on that. I need to double check that. I'm going to do some more work. But Alan Wilson does not need to be the AG of South Carolina, and he most certainly does not need to be governor. So he needs to resign and put it up. There's so many things that we can go into on this. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching us from Ex American News, thank you for your support. We really appreciate it. If you're watching from my Rumble channel or from my personal X, I really appreciate you. Please share these messages and get them out. I'm not always going to stay on South Carolina, but I'm just sharing some things so that way you can start getting the things moving inside your head. Please go to my of how you can solve these problems and do your own research. That's what I'm getting at. Sorry, let me finish my thought there. Please go to my website, lynz.co. Consider making a contribution there, helping to support these investigations and the people that I'm talking with and the work that I'm doing behind the scenes and here up front. I appreciate your prayers and your support. And so I'm really excited. I look forward to seeing you back next Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Last thing I'll say is make sure you grab one of my books on my website. That also helps support the work I'm doing, and subscribe to my newsletter. Thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you, and God bless America.